I'm Kaylee, and this is my July wrap-up that I'm finally getting around to filming. I read 12 books in July, but before we get into those books, I want to make sure that you know the Books for MKs is a charity that donates books to missionary kids. Today's MK shout-out goes to Jack, who is 4 years old and lives with his family in Kenya. Like most 4-year-olds, Jack loves to read picture books. If you want to donate to Jack and children like him, you can do so at GoFundMe.com. And don't forget to click on that subscribe button and on the little bell. So first of all, I read 3 books for Jane Austen July, which I've already talked about in another video, which I will link up here and down below. I read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I read Jane Austen A Life by Claire Tomlin. And I read Percival Keene by Frederick Marriott. So if you want to see reviews for those, then you can go and check out my Jane Austen July wrap-up. I also read Quest, which is the 4th book in the Septimus Heap series by Angie Sage. In this one, a disgruntled old ghost has rigged the questing stone so that it sends Septimus on a very dangerous quest in the middle of his apprenticeship, which, he's not supposed to go on the quest. But no matter what Septimus does, he cannot escape the deadly quest, and he ends up dragging Gemma along with him. Gemma and Beetle, which I was glad to see Beetle in there, and Septimus all go on this quest through deadly forests and dangerous Arctic wastelands, across deadly cliffs, and at the end they find the secrets of time. The world building just gets more and more phenomenal with every book in this series. It is so imaginative and full of magic. And I love how twisty the plot is, where every tiny detail can be important. And I love how interesting and complex all the characters are and how they all interact with one another. I am just growing to love Beetle's character more and more throughout the series, and I was so glad to see that he has a really central role in this 4th book. Gemma and Septimus are, of course, favorite characters, as always, and I gave this book 4 stars. I read How to Get a Date Worth Keeping by Henry Cloud. I thought this was a good book with some pretty interesting ideas about dating. I really liked the approach to dating as a way to learn more about yourself and what you like and what you don't like, and as a way to spiritually connect with God and kind of find out areas in yourself that you need spiritual growth. This book has some really wonderful godly advice and a lot of scripture. I gave it 4 stars. I read Journal Me Organized by Rebecca Spooner. I got so many creative and interesting ideas for my planner from this book. I really love how the information is organized, and there are chapters for different planning methods or different styles. The beauty of it is you don't need fancy paints or brushes or pens or even a fancy notebook. She has an entire chapter about just how to set up a bullet journal in a plain composition lined notebook. I really liked all the different styles of yearly spreads and monthly and weekly and daily spreads. Whether you want a minimalist style or a very artistic style, there is something in this book for everyone. Literally everything I was looking for and hoping for, I found it in this book. And so of course I gave it 5 stars. All the next books that I'm going to talk about are books that I received from the publishers in exchange for a free and honest review. I read Dear Justice League, which is a graphic novel for children about how the members of the Justice League answer their fan mail. And they ask, are the Justice League heroes always perfect, or do they sometimes make mistakes? Do they maybe eat too much cake, or do they smell like fish? Do they make bad fashion choices? Do they lose the video game? So the superheroes answer fan mail from kids wondering, are superheroes just like me? I really love the way that each individual fan mail story and fan mail answer was woven into a larger story throughout the book. I loved the artwork. It's clear and colorful with beautiful panels that really show the action, and the cartoony style really enhances the comedy. This book made me laugh, and I enjoyed every page, and I gave it 5 stars. I read Space Kid Ilk Invasion 101. This book is by Andrew Hammond. And it's about Ilk, who is a normal alien boy, and he just gets so annoyed when his parents want to invade Earth. What a pain. His father gets tired of being the supreme ruler of Earth, and so he decides to make it kind of a school project for teenage ilk that he has to rule over Earth. I thought this book was hilarious. The writing is so clever and silly. The plot is really imaginative, and I liked the artwork a lot too. Ilk himself is a wonderful main character. He is grumpy and kind of sassy, and he just really resents his parents for bossing him around all the time. But then he begins to find freedom and friends on Earth, and his story begins to change. I loved the whimsical illustrations and the cartoon drawings. I thought this was a really entertaining book, and it has very positive messages, so I gave it 5 stars. I read several picture books for children that I received for free in exchange for a free and honest review. I read Wild Bio's Neil Armstrong. This is a colorful baby board book that tells the story of Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, but instead of being a man, he's a swan. This book has a whole cast of animal characters and hilarious animal puns, like one small step for swan, one giant leap for bird kind. This book gives an overview of Neil Armstrong's entire life, from his childhood up through becoming a test pilot until he went to his training to become an astronaut and landed on the moon. I really loved the silly puns and the adorable animal characters. The whole book is so bright and funny, and I gave it 5 stars. I read The Green Giant, which is a story about a girl who goes to visit her grandfather in the country and discovers a giant made of greenery. I thought this story was really charming. The giant tells the little girl about how he used to live in the city, but the pollution drove him out of the city and he had to go and move to the country. I liked the sort of crayon kind of look of the art style, but the artwork isn't very polished or even sometimes symmetrical. I thought that the giant's design and his face and his body could have been better designed. His body doesn't look like it has any structure. He's just like this boneless blob. I think if it was just a little more polished, then it would be a beautiful book. I did like the story, and the artwork is fine, but I guess I just prefer a different style, and I only gave this one 3 stars. I read It's Your World Now by Barry Falls. This children's book encourages children to follow their dreams, and it reminds them that they're capable of anything, but it also reminds them that not everything is going to come to you easily. The one reason I really enjoyed reading this book is the possibility for picking out so many details in the background. But sometimes those details almost felt overwhelming, like there was just too much stuff on the page. All the illustrations are bright and colorful with a cartoonish kind of look. This book is written in poetry, which I'm getting kind of tired of in children's books. I don't know why people always think that children's books have to be written in poetry, but the poetry is pretty good. It's not too cringy or anything. Everything rhymes correctly and the meter is correct, but it doesn't quite flow naturally. It feels a little forced at times, but it's good poetry, it's fine. I enjoyed reading this one and I gave it 4 stars. I read Forgotten Beasts by Matt Sewell. This beautifully illustrated book teaches about extinct animals that are not dinosaurs. There are no monstrous lizards or dinosaurs in this book. It's all other types, like the saber-toothed tiger and the woolly mammoth. Some are familiar to us, like the woolly mammoth, but others are really rare and strange looking. The illustrations are soft and silky with this very sort of gentle style. But I wish there were more detail in the illustrations, and I would have liked for there to be a separate picture showing like the skeleton, so we could kind of see where the artist was coming from with their rendition of the scales or fur or feathers or whatever it was. I feel like this would be a good starting point for children or teens who are interested in extinct species, so that then they could go on and do some further research. Because there's not a lot of information in this book, it's more just pretty to look at. But it definitely sparked my interest with all those beautiful illustrations. And I gave this one 3 stars. And those are the books that I read in July. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what are some of your favorite books that you have been reading lately. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.